We have already worked with the player controller of a top-down game. As you probably remember, we have fixed the strafe running bug, but the player still cannot rotate around. In this lecture, we are going to fix this. The character will turn around as the player presses A and D. This control schema is called 10 controls, and it works in many games like the old GTA games, Silent Hill, Grim Fandango, and many others. You already know that you can get the user input using the good old input get axis horizontal method. The only question is the rotation itself. In Unity, the easiest way to rotate an object is to use the transform rotate method. The rotate method has many overloads. The first overload takes the vector as a parameter. X, Y, and Z values correspond to degrees that the object will be turned by. So when rotate is used in the update phase, and vector 1, 2, 3 is passed to it, the object will rotate 1 degree by X, 2 degrees by Y, and 3 degrees by Z each frame. If you want to rotate the object only by 1 degree in only one axis, you can use vector shortcuts like vector 3 right. Since the rotation occurs every frame, fast computers will rotate the given cube faster than slow computers, since they have more frames per second. But fear not, as time delta time will save the day once again. Another method overload takes 3 parameters that correspond to x, y, and z angles. The last overload takes a vector that serves as an axis and a float value that represents a degree. Spoiler alert, the axis and the angle combined looks very similar to an entity called quaternion, which we'll cover later in the section. For each of the overloads, there is one optional parameter called relative to. By default, the object rotates around the local axis, since the relative to is set to space self. However, you can set the parameter as space world, and the rotation will occur despite the object's current rotation state. You can see examples of such rotation in many games with inventory system where the player can look at the item from different angles. Silent Hill, LA Noire, Beyond Good and Evil, you name it. Can you handle the task with this new knowledge? Please stop the video and let's find out. Nice, so here's how I did that. The code from 2D controller lecture should be slightly updated. We'll use W and S buttons to move forward and backwards, while A and D will turn the player. Now we need a new field for the rotation speed. We might need to adjust it later in the inspector, so let's once again use the serialized field attribute. Now let's check if the horizontal and vertical axes are set properly. Looks good. The tank controls is not the most convenient way to control a character. Don't worry, we will take a look at the rotation that tracks the mouse position later in this section. Stay tuned.